All right, I would like to thank everybody for sticking around for a salute to veterans. We're going to start with an invocation by VFW Chaplain John Brotherwood.
Father of us all, in the depths of our silent reverence, we realize the truth of the inspired word. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. As comrades after comrades departs, we march on with our ranks grow thinner. Help us to be faithful unto thee and to one another. Look in mercy on the surviving spouses and children of our departed comrades. We beseech thee, and with thy own tenderness console and comfort those who are bereaved. Heavenly Father, bless our country with freedom, peace, and righteousness. For thy favor may we meet at last before the throne in heaven. We praise thy most great and holy name, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, John. Good evening. We would like to welcome everyone to the 2021 Salute to Veterans. My name is Christina Smith, and my husband, big beard over there, is Chris. We are the chairman for the Veterans Programs for Summerfest this year. We would like to start by thanking the St. Mary's Community Band for playing the hymns for us, the American Legion and VFW for helping out tonight, the Chained Eagles for bringing in the wall, and General Dynamics for letting us have half pint for the weekend. This year we are honoring all veterans as we usually do, but we are focusing on the 30th anniversary of Desert Storm and the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We have some wonderful speakers lined up for this evening, and I will introduce them in a little bit. A hero, a legendary figure endowed with great strength and ability, an illustrious warrior, a person possessing great courage. There's another important characteristic of heroes. They place themselves at risk for the benefit of others. This is what I think of when I think of our veterans, America's veterans. I never cease to be amazed at the self-discipline of these brave young Americans. They can endure the adrenaline-pumping violence of an enemy engagement and minutes later help school children get safely to their classes. No nation, ours included, has ever had a military force better than the one we have today. I am proud of them, and you should be too. Yet in our celebrity worshiping culture, the word hero has been corrupted to embrace all manner of people who simply aren't heroic. Record-setting athletes, diamond-studded rappers, auspicious movie stars, and that venture out to be the first to accomplish some never-tried feat of daring aren't heroes. They may be brave, they may have overcome all odds before making it big, but they don't meet the definition of hero, and if whatever they achieve benefits no one but themselves. Real heroes are selfless. Those who serve in harm's way in these wars have that quality in abundance, and so do their families and loved ones at home. Yet they rarely get the attention, coverage, or press they deserve. There is no doubt that dreadful things happen in war. Ground combat is the most horrific experience a human being can endure. When bad things happen, as they always do in war, they should be reported, and they usually are. But those who persevere, who do the right thing in the midst of shocking violence, who give up personal comfort and safety for what is necessary, these are heroes. They deserve, at the very least, equal time and respect. Letting their stories be known is important, not just to them, but to all of us. Through self-sacrifice, fortitude, and action, whether they succeed or fail, heroes provide us with an ethical framework for the life of our nation. The deeds of heroes are waypoints on our moral journey, and they encourage us to be better than we otherwise might be. All the veterans standing all around are the true heroes. I am fortunate that some of these guys are my family, and that the rest I get to see on an almost daily basis. The men in my family who have served our country are the reason I do what I do. With Salute to Veterans, VFW Post 9289 and District Auxiliary, Seeing them and hearing what they went through is what drives me to do as much as I can to help our veterans. Thank you. Our first real speaker, I'm not that good at it, is John McJunkin from the American Legion.
Post 323.
When I was called to speak and asked to speak, how could I say no? I'm always honored to talk about our country's veterans. I want to start, though, by saying it's great seeing all of you. And I mean seeing all of you. For the past year and a half, I've been looking at face masks instead of those beautiful smiling faces. During the year 2020 and on into 2021, we all felt a touch of government controlling our lives. For the sake of the family and friends, most of us abided by the rules that time. That is about all I'm going to say about that subject tonight. What is a veteran? A veteran, whether on active duty, discharged, retired, or in the reserves, is somebody who at one point in his life took an oath to defend the United States of America. The oath reads, I solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed. Veterans, those men and women who protect us and our country's borders, our flag, our Constitution, our right to worship, our right to bear arms, just to name a few. Our veterans are located throughout the world, protecting our country's interests and also millions of innocent people who could and would become victims of tyrants, who really have no concern for human rights. The rights we take for granted every day are products of the U.S. Constitution and protected by the U.S. military. The Constitution guarantees all Americans more rights than any other country in the world. The beautiful flag, there it is, the beautiful flag behind me is the symbol of our country. It is recognized throughout the world and it can be seen everywhere our troops are. The flag also drapes the coffins of those who have died in battle and those who have served and later passed. I and all veterans believe the flag flies for the honor of all Americans, past, present, and future. Everything I just talked about is brought to you and guaranteed by the U.S. military. There have been many battles and so many deaths to win the freedoms we enjoy every day. Of course, the military work is never done. After the battles, they must account for the missing and the dead and make sure the bodies make it back to the families who are waiting for the closure. Then the next fight comes to the military. The fight to make sure our country's leaders take care of our wounded as promised to all when they became soldiers, when they took the oath. Whenever people are talking about minorities and all those groups and all what those groups go through, stop and think about veterans. Veterans make up less than 2% of our country's population. They get no handouts, no special treatment that hasn't been deserved or earned. Veterans live in your neighborhood, raising their families to be good citizens. Veterans are doing patriotic duties, caring for families of veterans in need, doing the duties of remembering the fallen and their families. Veterans are caring and teaching patriotism to all who will listen. Veterans are willing to help students learn about the past, the present, and the events that molded our country into the greatest country in the world. To all veterans, I ask you to think about this for a moment. I ask you all to be proud of your service and proud of being part of our minority group. Wear the hat, put on the plates, put the plates on your vehicle. Fly your service flags along with the nation's flag. When you are asked about your time in the service, but really do not want to discuss that part of your life, just say, I've been there and I've done that job. This all spread patriotism throughout our towns, and keep in mind who could do it better than the veterans. A pride should be felt by all Americans, for all of us who have served to protect our American way of life. And now, to preserve, for all those who have served to protect the American way of life and the American dream for the future, so our children will be able to enjoy the same rights as we do now. In closing, I ask all of you to please show your honor and respect to our country's flag. And always remember that the smallest minority group in our country is the veterans. Those people who stepped up for America. For God and country, I thank you for this, giving me time to speak here tonight. It was enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next we have Tom Vernon, who is the treasurer of the Chained Eagles, who brought in the wall tonight for us.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for being here this evening. It's an honor to be able to bring the Vietnam POW MIA wall here to St. Mary's. And I'd like to ask all veterans to please stand at this time.
Come on, Sim, get off your butt.
Owen Skinner, Greggy Houston. I didn't see those two stand with us. Those two brethren are two of the brethren that are on that POW MIA wall. We still await their return. The Chained Eagles was started in the early 1990s by four. You may sit down, I'm sorry. Chained Eagles was started in the early 90s by four Vietnam veterans who were concerned because our POW and MIAs had not been returned, and the government wasn't doing a very good job of looking for them. So we started this organization in order for the government to be accountable, and not just the Vietnam War, from every war. You need to remember that the average age of any of us when we went into service from World War II on was the age of 15 up to 18. The average age of a POW or MIA or a brother killed in action was between the age of 18 to 22 in all the wars. We went in as kids and came out as men. Since World War II, there are over 83,000 POWs and MIAs that have not returned to this country. We still await the return for those brethren. Now, over 73,000 of those brethren are from World War II. But you have to remember, during World War II, the Nazis and the Japanese had what they call the Death March, where they marched the prisoners down the road and they mowed them down with machine guns and left them lie in the trenches. Also, in World War II, there were over 405,000 American men and women killed in action during World War II. Over 225,000 POWs and MIAs. We still await the return of 73,000 of those brethren from World War II. Then we go into the Korean War. The Korean War, there were over 38,000 brethren and sisters killed in action in the Korean War. Over 25,000 POWs and MIA brethren. And we still await the return of over 7,700 of those brothers and sisters from the Korean War. The Vietnam War. The Vietnam War, there are over 58,275 personnel, brothers and sisters killed in action. Big drop in POWs and MIAs. Only 2,541 POWs and MIAs from the Vietnam War. But we still await the return of over 1,641 of those brothers and sisters. The Cold War. There's 125 to 126 brothers or sisters that haven't returned. And the Gulf, Afghanistan, and the other Eastern wars right now, there's only 1 or 2 POWs that haven't returned. But what you need to remember, today's modern warfare, you don't have the hand-to-hand combat we used to have. We hope we never see those numbers climb again. What a lot of people haven't realized is not only those that haven't returned. Since any war we've had, and I'll go from World War II on, there's over 100,000 brothers and sisters that have returned from the war. But those brothers and sisters didn't return whole. They have psychological, physical, mental, stress, PSTD as they call it now. And they come back and they have nowhere to go. A lot of these brothers and sisters still have nightmares from World War II on up to the present day. A lot of families have been broken up by that because when the soldier came back, they didn't know how to handle themselves, and the government didn't have any treatment for them. Talked to a couple over in Spencerville about 2 months ago, and he told me he was a Vietnam veteran. He said, when I came back, we really had a rough time. Now, some of you can associate yourself with the veterans that were in combat. He said, my wife and I were not able to sleep in the same bed for 10 years because of the nightmares, always waking up swinging and hitting. 10 years. How many families were broken because they couldn't handle that? The veteran was scared he was going to harm his family, or the family was scared of their loved one. So these veterans, a lot of them ended up homeless. Did they ask to be homeless? No, they didn't. But for their love of their families, they went out. They're living on the streets. The only thing they could find to help them out are drugs and alcohol. These veterans do not deserve that, and they did not deserve the type of treatment that they had. But that was the only answer they had because the government doesn't have anything for them. So when you see a veteran, it's so important that you remember to thank them for their service and give them a welcome home that they've never had. Again, it's something we just can't do enough of. They went out and they made that ultimate sacrifice. the brothers and sisters killed in action, the brothers and sisters missing in action, the brothers and sisters that are POWs that still haven't returned, they all paid that supreme sacrifice. But also the hundreds of thousands of these veterans that came back wounded and not whole, they also paid that supreme sacrifice, but they still pay that every day of their life. That is why we bring this wall out. It's for the Vietnam War, but we cover all wars. We don't want America to forget that supreme sacrifice that was made so we can enjoy the freedoms that we have today. This is the greatest country in the world, protected by less than 4% of Americans have been in the military. So for over 200 years, this great country has been protected by less than 4% of the population. So at this time, I'd like everyone to give a round of applause to all the veterans that are here and thank them for their service. God bless you and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Tom. This was too good. Our next one is John Meyer, the commander of VFW Post 9289, and he will be introducing our key speaker for the evening.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here tonight to honor my fellow veterans. And Christina Smith for putting on the Summerfest events here. Christina is my post canteen manager. She's also our senior vice president of our auxiliary. She's also a District 2 junior vice commander in District 2 of Ohio. Chris is my quartermaster. He's the one that keeps the post together. They do, but I think they deserve a round of applause. If you can do that for them. And my name is John Meyer. I'm the commander of VFW Post 9289 here in St. Mary's. I served with the U.S. Navy in Vietnam, in Dong Ha. I never seen a ship. You'll have that. Before I introduce tonight's key speaker, I'd like to invite all veterans to join us Saturday to ride in the parade. We've got a float that they can ride on, or jeeps. We're going to have jeeps in the parade riding, and then we're going to have a free meal immediately following the parade at VFW Post 9289. It's being put on by Brad Fisher and Scott Snyder. We have a booth set up at the Armory, and I'd like everyone, if they have a chance, to get there, because we'd like to tell you about the things we do for veterans at the VFW, how we help our auxiliary, and what we all do. We'll have information on becoming a member of the VFW, so choose, or the auxiliary. We also have information on upcoming events like the first bingo. We have a silent watch. I'd really like to invite you to that. September 12th, right here in the gazebo. We're going to have a silent watch for the 22 veterans a day that commit suicide. We'll have a coffin here. We'll have pictures of veterans that committed suicide. And we'll stand guard over that flag draped coffin. So if you can, stop by the Armory so you can see the Vietnam Wall, the POW MIA Wall. Half-Pint, our Mini Abrams is there. That's really pretty cool. And the VFW. Before I introduce our guest speakers, one thing I want to say, I stood out on the overpass in Moulton today as these guys were coming in town, and it was quite the scene. I just want to say that Chained Eagles, Half-Pint, was it Abrams tank, UAW, and everybody, you guys rock. So, I now have the great privilege of introducing this year's key speaker, retired Lieutenant Colonel David N. Sims. Lieutenant Colonel Sims is a native of St. Mary's, Ohio, a 1995 MHS graduate, and was commissioned as Second Lieutenant of Armor through ROTC in 2000 upon graduation from the Ohio State University. Excuse me. He has been stationed overseas at Camp Casey, South Korea, 3 tours in Iraq and Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti. His final assignment in the U.S. Army was as Professor of Military Science at Kent State University. His professional military education includes the Airborne School, Armor Officer Basic Course, Armor Officer Advanced Course, Combined Arms and Services Staff School, and Air Command and Staff College. Lieutenant Colonel Sims holds a BA in History from the Ohio State University, MS in Criminal Justice from Tiffin University, and an MMAS from Air Command and Staff College, and a PhD in Global Leadership and Change from Tiffin University. Boom. His awards and decorations include Bronze Star Medal with Valor Device, Bronze Star Medal, 2 of them, Purple Heart, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, 4 of them, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Army Commendation Medal, 4 of them, Army Achievement Medal, 4 of them, Combat Action Badge, Basic Parachutist Badge, and the Basic Army Instructor Badge. So Dave, I think you got them all. Right now, I'd like to introduce you to Dave Sims as our keynote speaker. Dave.
All right. All that stuff is, just thanks to the hundreds and thousands of soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines that I've served with over 23 years. They made that happen. I was just along for the ride. But those of you still here, weather's well south of us, and the next front's not coming until the middle of the night, so we'll be good. So Herb, I'm gonna go long because Colonel's talk. All right. And I want to start tonight thinking about events that occurred over 30 years ago when I was just a teenager here, and I'm talking about when I was glued to television in late 1990 and early 1991 during Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, which is really something very foundational for the rest of my life. And that's where I started to transition my heroes from athletes to the service members who were fighting in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and later into Iraq. So Operation Desert Storm, it began on 17 January 1991, and for 42 consecutive days and nights, Allied Air Forces subjected Iraq's illegal occupation and incursion to the largest air campaign in military history. Over 100,000 sorties and 88.5 tons of ordnance dropped on Iraqi forces. The ground campaign began on 15 February 1991, and this is where it got really exciting for me, because later I became a tanker, where the armored assault, led by the United States, entered Saudi Arabia, the oil field of Saudi Arabia, and then later into Kuwait. On the 24th of February, the coalition ground forces entered Iraq itself, culminating February 28th. We lost 146 Americans during the Gulf War, but the aftermath of Gulf War syndrome, uranium and radiation exposure, and air particulates from burning Kuwaiti oil fields continue to affect our Desert Storm veterans. Please continue to honor and respect their service and sacrifice to respond to protect the lives of people they did not know halfway around the world. These guys were my first real role models when I entered the Army in 1997. They were the seasoned non-commissioned officers and senior officers who I trusted due to their experience, and all with what I remember watching on CNN as a young man here in St. Mary's. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to turn about 10 years later in this timeline. For me, it was 9:46 p.m. on the evening of 11 September when my world changed. I was a tank platoon leader in my barracks room in Camp Casey, Republic of Korea. I was on an old dial-up interconnect connection, and if you remember those, and the youth, you don't appreciate that. I was on MSN Instant Messenger. My dad broke in and told me to turn on the TV. Woke up my roommate, turned on the TV, changed the channel, Armed Forces Network, which was fixed on the smoking North Tower of the World Trade Center. Just minutes later, a second plane hit the South Tower. I immediately skipped my entire chain of command, picked up the phone, and called my battalion commander. We quietly alerted the battalion, and the entire 2nd Infantry Division was awake and ready to go. At the time, this was the forward deployed, most combat-ready unit in the United States Army, which that changed right there that night. We watched the 27-inch TV in our company's common area until about 4 a.m. on September 12th, when the company commander gathered his lieutenants, told the fellows to head to bed, so we would have the late call formation later that day. On September 13th, my platoon went to the field for 47 consecutive days, and that was something that was already scheduled. We had little or no communication with the world outside of the platoon for that first 30 days, aside from occasionally receiving a copy of Stars and Stripes, and trying to piece together the aftermath of the Al-Qaeda attack. And of course, 9/11 shaped our modern world, directly led to 20 years of sustained combat in Afghanistan, over 15 years in Iraq, and other military operations in the Philippines, Somalia, Kenya, Syria, Yemen, and other small pockets where Al-Qaeda, its adherents and affiliates attempted to find safe havens. American men and women to this day continue to hunt down these enemies of freedom. The 9/11 attacks killed 2,977 innocent men, women, and children in New York City, the Pentagon, and on Flight 93 over Pennsylvania. The subsequent global war on terrorism continues, with over 7,060 Americans killed in action and over 52,000 wounded in action. And those official Department of Defense numbers do not include those KIAs, WIAs, in Somalia and other small areas where we continue to fight today. And really, for me, the immediate aftermath of that, in 2003, I got to participate in the invasion of Iraq, which is quite interesting. Over my career, I got 3 deployments to Iraq. So over that, I was able to see the beginning, the middle, and the end of what we did in Iraq. And as you can imagine, at the beginning, it was a lot of confusion, especially once we defeated the Iraqi army, and things started to turn into insurgency, which we weren't really prepared for, and it wasn't anticipated. But that's what kept us there, for another 10 years. The changes I saw in Iraq over that time period, I went back just a couple years later as the tank company commander in Baghdad. We're defending and securing the trial of Saddam Hussein, and securing the first free elections in Iraq's history, and seeing democracy happen in a developing country for the first time, and then being able to come back again